Welcome, everyone. E-commerce was built for human clicking. The next era is built for AI acting. For 20 years, our industry optimized for search bars, endless scrolling, and conversion funnels. Tomorrow, the primary consumer will be an autonomous AI agent execute on behalf of the human. This changes everything. As someone who closely monitors both worlds, China and the West, I can tell you that China is already demonstrating how fast this shift is happening when platforms, payment, and consumer habits converge. China is the playbook for speed. But Europe's choice is fundamentally different. So, how do European companies, e-commerce companies, fintechs, and also payment companies survive and win this race? How do we build machine execution while honoring the need of human control? This is why we're sitting here to discuss with two exceptional panelists, experts. First, Professor Dr. Roland Frank. Roland is a leading scientist and expert in digital transformation with over 15 years of experience bridging technology, data, and media management. As a professor of digital leadership, his current research focuses entirely on a question every executive is asking. How do we integrate AI directly into corporate workflows to build the next generation of digital products? And with a foundational background heading banking regulation coverage, he brings a uniquely sharp eye to how compliance and innovation collide. Joining him is Alexander Scheibel, the product development lead for BNPL at Rivety. Alexander is the architect scaling buy now, pay later solutions across 9 European markets, building products that serves over 40 million consumers and 20,000 merchants. Gentlemen, welcome.
Hello.
Thank you.
So let's cut through the noise. We all used Siri, ChatGPT to give us ideas, right? But what happens when AI actually gets its own wallet? Roland, how far are we really from the era when we say just a sentence and the money leaves our bank account automatically?
Yes, this is a good question, and I think it really depends on where we are. If we are in China, this is already everyday's life. I mean, you can sit in a cafe in China and you order a coffee just by talking to WeChat, and the transaction is completely done with the agent or by the agent. Germany is different. Just a few weeks ago, I tried to buy a headset with the help of ChatGPT, and I just told him, please buy me this headset, and it's not possible. So there comes the moment when you have to go to your own shopping cart and you have to finish the transaction on your own. So it's really a question of where you are.
Exactly. I can totally confirm that. In China, you can like order your coffee at Luckin Coffee. Everybody knows, right? So you just say the sentence, buy me the just buy me the coffee that I usually drink, and the coffee arrives before I arrive at the office.
Yes.
So it's already fantastic. So the report makes, you wrote a report about it, makes a brilliant distinction between visible and hidden agents. Just buy stuff for you for on a Friday, for example, like milk, groceries without asking. But as a consumer, doesn't that feel a little bit spooky? I mean, who really wants a silent roommate just spending our money, you know?
Yes, I think first we need to distinguish between the different topics, because we have the visible agents and the hidden agents. So what is the difference between these both? First of all, let's explain the visible agent. If you have, for example, a visible agent that helps you shopping, he might discover that you are checking out a t-shirt the last weeks. So you go to the website constantly, and every time you look at this one t-shirt, and then this agent can help you and say, look, now I found this same t-shirt with a different price. Don't you want to buy it? That would be a visible agent. Let's talk now about hidden agents. Hidden agents is when agents orchestrate more of the transaction in the background. So one example would be, you tell the agent, every time this item is below €5, you buy this item one time. And then you don't need to talk anymore with the agent. He does it on his own. So this is the difference between visible agent and hidden agent.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think it's less of the creepy roommate that listens to every conversations, but it's rather that assistant that you have at your disposal, that you give clear instructions and you delegate authority. And I mean, it basically, I many times compare it also to a little kid, that you don't give access to your full bank account, but you give it pocket money, right? And when you delegate the first 30 euros, the first 50 euros, you'll see what happens. If the kid buys 50 kilos of candy from it, it's probably not going to get the next 50 euros before it shows, maturation, smarter choices, better execution in terms of what you had thought about this.
And I think it's not like a spooky roommate. It's, as you said, pocket money, or let's compare it to the butlers of the 19th century, because you had these assistants and they helped you in your household. And the more you trusted them, the more money they got and the more they could help in the everyday life. So yes.
This sounds like a very ideal scenario, right? If it works perfectly in this way, yes. Right? But does it really work in this way already, or sometimes the AI agents just lose control?
I think that's the very interesting development that we're seeing right now, due to the fact that most models of the big AI companies are incentivized by optimizing towards scoring, always beating each other every week when a new model comes out. They tend to hallucinate. I think you as a professor probably know that. It's like if people at university start doing a test, and at the end of the test they have maybe 2 or 3 questions left that they don't necessarily know how to answer, they will guess, because there is a chance that that might be right. And in that that incentivization, of course, causes models to hallucinate. Restricting that and putting guardrails into place to minimize this hallucination is what's going to be key to build up that trust. And I think for that, Europe has a fantastic playing ground and starting point, because Europe many times tries to build up trust through regulatory bodies, through having everything vetted and tested before launch, which definitely comes at the cost of speed. But it's definitely something that where Europe has a trajectory that can also ensure that it has a playing right.
Yeah, we will definitely discuss more about this regulations and the way, the direction Europe is going to take, and also the difference between Europe and China later on, right? So, but before we get into that detail, because that's of course the most exciting part, most interesting part, and it definitely will be a huge discussion. Let's also first discuss some other questions, also for us to better understand. So the report also says that the future battlefield isn't the storefront, it is the protocol layer, right? So big tech companies like OpenAI and Google are aggressively pushing ACP, which is Agent Connectivity Protocol. So are they trying to build the router of the global economy? And what happens to merchants who don't speak this language?
Yes, I think this is a big challenge at the moment, because the big companies like OpenAI and Google are pushing out these protocols, and they are. I like the comparison to router, but maybe they are even more. They're like more the operating system or the language of the e-commerce of the future. I mean, they are deciding what is which permission is given, which act is finally performed. So this is changing the completely landscape. I won't give you an example. Let's think about a garden center in Germany, and it just has all these products, but it is not, these catalogs of this garden center are not machine readable. So they will not be able to be found by these agents. And then you're invisible. In the next stage of e-commerce, you will not be able to be seen. So what we see here is a power shift or a value shift from the merchants to these protocols. And this is definitely dangerous at the moment.
Yeah, I would just add to that it's we've been training our ecosystem that goes from shop platforms like WooCommerce, but also Shopify, to have structured data, especially on the product itself. So maybe product description, you get the color, you get the product image, you get the price. But that's usually when it stops, right? You might have the quantity and that's on stock, but everything beyond that right now is super unstructured, and that needs to change. When you think about return policies, I don't think many people have ever read the full return policy, yeah. But it's like you need to make sure that vetted data is in there, that is data that you can deliver upon, dispute policies, shipping policies. All these information sets, they need to be accessible by a machine and easy to interpret by a machine with that are maybe limited by context models. So making sure machine readable, easily accessible is going to be a big key, and that's going to be a major shift in our industry focus. You already see it at the fairs these days, where you have loads of marketing agencies shifting from SEO into agentic discoverability. So definitely, where lots of people now need to put their money.
That's true. I had the feeling that in the past decades, what I've learned, right, about starting a business, building a website, and optimize content, optimize search bar, optimize the SEO, right?
Yes.
These all become or will become obsolete, right? In the future, it's totally different game. So you need to come from SEO to discovery, like AI optimization. It's a whole different knowledge set. Doesn't matter if it is for like business, merchants, platforms, everybody, right?
Yes, very much so. And I don't want to say it's gonna be the game for 100%. I mean, people have been claiming that e-commerce is gonna kill the streets. You see every bigger e-commerce store is saying like, we need to be in the streets. We need to have a nice shop interface. And just as much as we will have a nice shop interface in the streets of Berlin or Amsterdam, yeah, we will have nice interfaces on the web shop itself, but we also need to have a great interface towards these agents. And that's something that's not visible, but it still needs to be beautiful and easy to be accessed.
That's a really interesting one, right?
Yeah, but I think the future is not that bright, maybe, because if we look at the Google I/O conference from last week, what we can see here is that they really changed the rules of the game completely, and they introduce a new search bar, a generative search bar. They introduce a universal shopping cart. And let me paint this picture. I mean, a consumer goes to the website of Google and he asks for sneakers. And what is happening in the background is that the Google search bar will generate automatically a user interface for the consumer. So there will not be any more need to go to the website, right? And afterwards, if you are interested in one of these sneakers, you put it into the shopping cart of Google. So I think this is a horror scenario for a lot of merchants, and yes, that can lead to big value shifts from the merchants into these Google or big ecosystems in the end.
So will the web shop just die because the interface will only be like Google dominated interface? So who will spend time and money, energy to build a fancy website or web shop?
I'm not sure what Alexander is saying, but I say that the website is not dead, but the importance of website will definitely decline. And if there's one thing I'm afraid of, it's all these SEO agencies. We talked about it. I mean, this is a whole market that will maybe come to an end at the end. So this is a huge shift in e-commerce at the moment.
How do you see that? Because you made the example of offline stores, they still exist because people anticipated that e-commerce will kill this kind of economy, but now we have a similar or comparable situation. How do you see that?
I mean, I wouldn't completely contradict to what you said, but I would still argue it's like, yes, there might be not the need for people to visit a web store going forward, but people want to. Yeah, so some people want to explore things in different fashions. And while even today, I don't have the need to go to the grocery store because I could order everything online, but I still do for preference reasons. And I think those preferences move much, much slower than anything. And while you wouldn't have to, you will still want to. And I think that change, will be there for the next 20, 30 years. And so I don't think as much as the storefront is not dead, neither will e-commerce stores will be dead. But of course, the share of distribution where people will shop is definitely going to change, and it's going to be putting pressure on both existing markets already. Yes.
Okay, interesting, because I can only tell from the Chinese perspective, right? So basically, we don't use the web shop in China, right? So it's already
happening.
It's already dead because their marketplaces, they actually dominate over 90% of the whole e-commerce. So you can build your brand flagship stores on the marketplace. So instead of building your standalone web shop, so web shop in this regard is already dead. So the question is also in China is also not search bar driven, search driven. E-commerce is discovery driven, right? So it's already we way past that era of search optimization and everything. So of course they still use keywords and everything on the marketplaces and platforms, but this web shop is already. And also my question would be, for the physical store, I can understand because it gives me some entertainment and leisure time to kill leisure time to also discover this personal, need of
interactions,
discovery, interaction with people, seeing stuff, But for a web shop, it's totally different. It's actually, I go there, I have to read all those information, and it actually doesn't give me any entertainment. Well, from the Western perspective, from the Chinese perspective, we use shop-attainment, right? So the actually visiting those websites, watching videos, and discover through TikTok and everything, that gives me a lot of entertainment. Is sometimes even shopping is like a hobby. I kill my, kill time to just do the shopping. So do you still think that the web shop is not on the way to death?
I hear you, and as I would agree to a large sense, it's like you will always have to upgrade your storefront. And if that means you make it a more interactive, socially, engaging, you have games in your stores, in your shop. And I mean, that's where the TikTok shops and Instagram shops of this world are also heading to, right? It's like you connect the shopping experience with entertainment. And so that is definitely emerging, and I would assume it's like you need to give people reasons to visit your web shop.
Exactly.
Yes, but I think Europe can definitely learn from this Chinese experience. I mean, the Chinese TikTok, for example, if you compare this to the Instagram here Western Europe, it's like you watch this video, this reel, and you directly get the chance to buy these articles.
Right.
I mean, your agent, your buying or commerce agent in this app is directly showing you some possible orders, and this is where we are heading to. We're definitely going in this way, and this is where Germany or Europe can learn from China, definitely.
For sure, for sure. Well, yeah, China is basically the living laboratory for agentic commerce. We can call it like that. And the big players like Alibaba, ByteDance already launched the real model into the market, like Alibaba with Q1 and Alipay, and ByteDance with, Doubao and also Douyin, the Chinese twin of TikTok. So yeah, my question would be, do you know, in the era of AI, who will win? Because the game is a total different level. So they all live in a huge ecosystem already, right? Logistic, payment, chat, entertainment, everything is integrated in the ecosystem. But everybody has its own, let's say, advantage, competitive advantage. So who will be a bigger winner in this?
Yeah.
How do you see that?
I'm not sure what is your experience from China. I mean, when I compare these big ecosystems in China, I think you can have them all at once. I mean, I think a lot of the urban smartphone users in China are living in the Alibaba system, and they are living at the same time in the other systems. So that is definitely not a question of who will win. I think it's more a question of how deeply integrated are these systems, and how are these agents performing in the end? How vertically integrated are these agents along the value chain?
Well, I can only tell you that they're already performing quite well. So yeah, Taobao win-win, right? So actually, they already performed 300 million requests just during 1 week at the February Spring Festival, right? So they're processing millions of transactions actually done by AI agents, and so over 100 million, let's say, in 1 week. But then they already have like over 400 million active users registered for that. So we only have 80 million people living in Germany. Let's say in China is 1.4 billion people, and you can see the number and the, let's say, the willingness to use the AI agents is totally different from in the Western world, right?
Yeah.
So, but they're also, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's mostly cultural what we're gonna see in terms of like who's winning, who's not. It's like people visit Berlin these days and they think it's like, how come all these small shops are still out there? It's like, how come Berlin is not even anywhere close to Shanghai in terms of, development? And we within Europe throughout history, we've seen, very small places being very local driven and want that local flavor, local experience. And that doesn't change so significantly, and I think that's why also the question will be answered, very, very differently in the US versus in Latin America versus in Africa, Europe, China. I don't think this is going to be the one technology that all of a sudden will make this planet, a cultural unity, and in terms of like who's going to end up dominating the commerce scene. Now we've seen that through e-commerce to quite some degree, but you still see is like in the Netherlands, about 60-70 kilometers from where we at right now, you see local shops still being the number one, number two shops where people purchase, which is insane to think about if you look at the finance power that Amazon, but also Shein or Temu have put forward. And I think that's going to be where we need to distinct a little bit. What do we believe is the winning game?
What do you think are the factors that decide this kind of behavior of consumers, like where to shop? Because I hear that shopping is actually can be kind of fun.
Yeah.
Right. So this kind of discovery, new things, experiencing new things. And also a lot of times, like you said, the small shops right around the corner is convenience. But also AI agents offers a lot of convenience, right? It's huge convenience. I just say one sentence and things get done.
100%. It's like we had a lovely conversation before this session about, it's like, okay, in Germany, for example, many times it's like, where do people spend time? What's their communities? Well, we talk about you know, small sports clubs, small Schützenvereine, and so on, right? And that's basically where we realize is like those are the communities that they then tend to support, and that's where you then also say is like, okay, well, maybe one of the preference that I'm going to give my agent is like, I want to shop local. I want to support the community and not maybe take the big digital community, but that really small local community where you have that relationship towards. So even that can be a preference set. Maybe even that is a data set that you want to push forward when you know, putting up your store value.
Exactly. And also there's kind of a mindset difference, right? So in China, people look for extreme convenience.
Yes.
If I stand in a queue, like waiting, there's 5 people before me, I already get annoyed, right? I want to instant get into the line and then buy my stuff. And here it's very common to see like 20 people line up in front of a supermarket, you know, checkout counter. So it's totally different mindset, and also to deal with like data and privacy, right? It's totally different.
Yes, totally. We see from surveys from Riveted, for example, that European consumers are much more cautious about using this kind of agents. And yes, I totally agree with you. We have a full focus in China. We have the legislative that is trying to power these elements. We have the consumers that want these agents. So every force in China is really pointing into this direction. They all want this. And here we are in a different situation. We are more cautious. We want control over our shopping experience. And therefore, and this is what we are talking about, we need maybe a different approach for our agentic system here in Europe.
And maybe to that, and I mean, I come out of the payment space, and buy now, pay later might have been a hot term over the past 10 years at least within the industry. But looking at that, it's deeply rooted into our heritage, into like my grandma already bought things auf Rechnung, like on invoice, because she's like, I'm going to order 30 books and I'll receive the books, and then I will pay, right? So it's the payment after delivery fact that we've seen for hundreds of years almost, being ingrained in our culture. And so it's like, there you can see that level of trust building comes through some of these experiences. Like, I want to receive first, then I'll pay. Let me check if this product is okay. And that's similar what we're going to see with agents. Let me check if this agent really does me well. And I think that's wonderful to learn, you know, from these different cultures to make sure it's like, okay, well, can we take some of the components and adapt them for us for better economy? Because, you know, there's so much great and also agentic commerce, right? It's like, I don't want to sit here and say, it's like, yeah, let's just ignore it or stop it. I think, you know, saying it's like, hey, you know, deal with my flight booking. Yeah, but, you know, check for the next 4 weeks, because I want to next year climb Kilimanjaro. So find me for the next 4 or 6 weeks the cheapest or best flight connection, and don't, you know, it doesn't need to happen when I now have time. So that delegation where my agent can negotiate on my behalf, right? Not to be at that one particular purchase intent time, but over a course of time. Fantastic. And I'm really looking forward to that.
Yes, and I just want to add, I mean, we can have China as an example or as an inspiration, but I think we should also look at the warning signs from China, because the big question is, who is the agent loyal to? So who is the agent serving? Is it the ecosystem or the consumer? And I think this is a thing that is not very transparent in this big ecosystem, in these big super apps in China. And this is where the real European path can come from. I mean, maybe we need our own agents that we trust, that we maybe also train. I mean, we can imagine a haggling bot provided by a PSP, and he's haggling the insurance contracts for us. I mean, this is the way to go maybe for Europe, to have own agents, and these agents are competing against each other, so that we have a kind of interoperability between these agents, so that you can say, no, this agent I don't trust anymore. I want to change. I want to have another agent. And this is maybe a way that we would not see in this Chinese pathway at the moment.
Yes, true. So this is very interesting discussion now, because of course China have a totally different approach, right? Because also the infrastructure is totally different. Why this AI agentic commerce is happening so fast in China is not because they have to build all the infrastructure and build all the steps towards the destination. It's because that there's already an infrastructure ecosystem to be plugged into, right? So, and also those big players, they are developing their own agent in their ecosystem, right? So, and they're already connected. Let's say you want to book the flight, they already have a flight agency and everything, right? So you can just talk to your agent and everything is already open. And also including the payment at the end. So they already integrated the payment solution. They integrated all the web shops. And here it's like, okay, I want to buy, let's say, a flight ticket. And I have to tell my agent, and I train, like you said, my own agent to be very intelligent and very sufficient. And this agent needs to go to a website, check the prices, and then go to another gateway for the payment and everything. So you need to actually open every single step, touch points to connect this. So it's totally different, let's say, infrastructure we're using. But interestingly, that's also exactly one of the points that we say, okay, we cannot just simply copy China, and we can also not ignore China. So we can learn from China as inspiration and see how we can find our own solution. But I find your idea and this thought is very interesting, building our own agent in comparison to this, let's say, agents developed by the platforms and already built into the infrastructure used by everybody. Nobody needs to build their own agent anymore. And also their own agent won't work, right, inside of the ecosystem.
Yes.
So, well, will it work, this own agent?
Yeah.
I mean,
yes, I think this is a technical question. You mentioned it. I mean, there are so many infrastructure discussions that come into play when we discuss if these agents are realistic. And I think this is really a question: is this possible? Is this doable?
I would say for sure it's possible. We will still play on the rails, though, of some of the big companies because they're the connectors, right? I mean, that interconnectivity has a price. If you want to be connected, you need to use the connections. And Visa and MasterCard have done that significantly over the past, whatever, 100 years it's been since credit cards built these schemes. But it's still local, hundreds of thousands of local banks offering services to users. Yeah, because setting up a bank is of course something very difficult, and we know that here very well at Riverty. But it's like going forward, building an agent is not very difficult. I mean, you go on a YouTube tutorial nowadays and you build your agent within 5 minutes. Yeah. So, but that agent still needs to be put on rails so I can connect to all these stores. And so in that, yes, the platform, the infrastructure will be there. But personalized agents, I think, definitely will be one of the most European ways of how to deal with this journey that we're ahead. We will have the, people that will build their own perfectized agent for themselves, versus I would assume in China it's like, oh, I have an agent that's very convenient. It's okay. I'll use that. And I'm just thinking, I don't know, for whatever reasons, of the watchmaker in Switzerland. He's probably going to be like, I really want to detail some specifics out about this agent that knows me particularly well because I want to have that dispute right. And that is very important to me. Or I want to have, like, cannot be from a shop that's further than 50 kilometers away from here. And that's I think, the beauty of this technology is also democratizing to a degree, because building agents is super, super easy. I recommend everybody.
Yeah, totally. But there's also this regulative side. So we need to watch what is the regulation of these agents, or how that will look like. And I think this is a small pathway for the European regulators to find the way of, on the one hand, making it possible, and on the other hand, not having like 3 taps to tap before everything is accepted. So 3 confirmations before the agent can.
Yeah, it's like if you want to have your daily coffee and you need to go through like like a crazy authentication process, that will be absolutely awful. So I hope really we're gonna push for some convenience. Yes,
way in the middle.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. I understand that Europe wants to build and deliver this kind of agentic commerce convenience without sacrificing trust, but that's exactly where the challenge lies, right? So, like you said, I order my coffee and then I have to go through 3 times of the compliance or whatever approval process. I would say, forget about it. I just buy one right around the corner.
Worst case, if it's going to be a CAPTCHA that you need an AI to solve.
Exactly. So everybody needs to now
please agent, help me solve this CAPTCHA.
Exactly. Exactly. Okay. Yes. So you just mentioned the part of the trust and regulation, and where, let's say, Europe stands a chance to discover a whole new path. Is it a little bit optimistic? I mean, can Europe be this fast and still win this race? I mean, Silicon Valley, Shenzhen, Hangzhou, they're moving so fast, right?
I think the decisive element will be the change of behavior of the consumers in the end. Will they accept these kind of more cautious agents from the European perspective, or will they just say, "Oh no, I will stay with the Amazon agent or with the Taobao agent in the end"? So yes, I think it will be, as you. I think we framed it right. It's a question between trust. Do you trust your agent, and convenience? Is it convenient to use this agent? And which side will win? I hope that we as Europeans will make a good choice and yes, follow the pathway of trustable agents. But yes, maybe I'm too optimistic with that.
Yeah, I mean, in China, it's that people are, extremely open to sacrifice part of their data to exchange for convenience. But here, as we learned from Rivety's survey, right, overwhelming 93% of the consumers want an emergency stop button for these AI shopping agents.
Yes.
So my question would be, it's interesting, how do these fintech providers overcome this cultural war of mistrust? Because we tend to mistrust, right? So we're very, very, very cautious. Germany, extremely. GDPR, data privacy, everything. If you want to install a camera in the house, just, on the way out, denied, rejected by everybody. So now we're talking about using agent access to do things and access to our wallet.
Yeah.
That's...
I mean, it's a big shift, as we said, but it's like for financial providers to make really a step change. My firm belief is that we need to instill another layer of trust, right? It's something that I take to heart in my work as a product responsible, is making sure is like, how can consumers turn things around? Right? When everything is automatic, when everything is immediate, you need to be able to reverse things. There's this wonderful clip from the Silicon Valley show from 10 years ago, where they absolutely nailed the prediction of how agentic commerce is going to be. watch it on YouTube. Maybe I'll put it in the comments under the follow-up. But it's like, hey, you want to order 5 kilos of meat for the barbecue party, but please get it at the cheapest price. Well, it found the cheapest price for the 5 kilos of barbecue if you order 5,000 kilos, and it's ordering 5,000 kilos of meat. Yeah. So it's like, what happens then? So I think, that kind of ironically, of course, is like shows a bit that reversibility is going to be crucial, and making sure that you have, rights to return. And I think Europe has a fantastic pathway. There's like, hey, in Europe, you can basically return almost everything 14 days later, right?
Yes.
You have right to withdrawal. And while these seem, like big words at the beginning, they infuse a level of trust that we haven't seen in some of the other regions. And I think from a financial institution perspective, we can lean into that. We can make sure that we say it's like, hey, we don't allow a transaction. If you said it's like an agent shouldn't be shopping more than 50 euros, just because the agent just presses through it and wants to circumvent that boundary, we can still say no, right? And say it's like, okay, well, with Riverty, we're not gonna accept this transaction. You can go somewhere else, but with us, it's like, we want to be your trust layer that you've set, or we will not allow agent transactions to be made for purchases that are not returnable, and these kind of, let's say, principles will allow people to compete. And that's where we believe we have a right to play, because these are the things that we will be, pursuing once the agentic commerce really is hitting. And I mean, we've been discussing this. It's like, when do we see the first transaction in Europe that actually is agent to agent? Supposedly yesterday in the Dutch news that came out that there was one transaction happening. So we got a bit of time. I'm really excited that, to have this conversation with people with Chinese expertise and US expertise. But it's really is like, for us now, the time is to build up these trust layers, to build up the infrastructure to be ready for it going forward.
Very exciting. I mean, this is exactly one of the biggest added value of payment solutions, fintech, to tackle for the future, right?
Yes.
Added value. Yes, exactly. So now maybe for some merchants, question in Europe, right? Well, if AI agents are doing the shopping, they will automatically filter for the absolute lowest price or the most optimized API. Does agentic commerce mean the death of local creative brands, reducing them to more commodity pipeline? Because these people don't have the capacity, the knowledge to develop this machine readable codes and everything optimized.
I mean, when we look at the development, I think what we will see is that the local shops that are, for example, a wood carver on island of Rügen, and he just have this tourist passing by. For these shops, there's no change, but these medium, small enterprises, I think this is a big challenge for them. And my solution would be, don't see this as a danger, but embrace the change. Be the one that is leading the race. Be the one that has your own product catalog directly connected to the ACPs and UCPs of the world, so that you are findable by the agents. So be the first one to be in this game. That is the chance for these small brands. I mean, but the danger is real from my perspective.
No, I would 2 points to that. One is like, really lean into what your value is, and that can be that you are that local wood shop on Rügen, right? That's like, hey, I want to support my community, so that sense of community within Europe is strong. So make that, if that's machine readable, and there will be people looking for, it's like, where can I buy shops from shops around here, or basically says like, I want to only shop for somewhere that's maximum 100 kilometers away, or that's very environmentally friendly, or I want to shop at people out of a certain community. Yeah, and I think that's going to be something that they will have to lean in a bit more, even to be basically that findable. And the other piece, we talk a lot about these SME shops, but we also see that 90% of the SME shops are already on big shop platforms. So if you see, the immense growth of Shopify, which if you read Amazon's, strategic papers for the investors, it's going to say, it's like they compare themselves with these shop platforms, right? That everybody builds their own web shop on these shop platforms already. So Shopify basically just a few weeks ago announced all of their shops are immediately agentic ready, right? Without them having to do something, because this data that you enter there is already structured.
Yes.
So I wouldn't argue that even for them it's the big shift. It's probably a big shift for the companies that really create this by themselves, like build their own web shop from scratch. That's of course where it not comes out of the box. It's really what you fill this with, and think about how people shop and how do they get to you. Understanding how users discover you is quite crucial, because if people have goals, have dreams in life, like I want to run a half marathon, I chat with my AI and it gives me my training plan, it gives me my nutrition plan. And that level of trust, of course, then I will also ask to say, hey, what kind of shoe should I buy? Right? So I feel there's also a bit of a change towards, it's more, I have an intent to do something, hence I shop for something to help me to get to that intent, to that dream. And that's a big, what makes that discovery slightly different in an agentic commerce time.
But the playbook's changing, definitely. I will give you an example. It's totally interesting. There's this German agency, and it's called Claneo. And they made an interesting experiment, and they just invented a matcha powder. And this matcha powder is called Matcheus. And then what did they do? They just provided not only a website for this Matcheus, but they also provided listicles and top lists in the net. It was like a fake list. And few days later, when the conversational LLM was asked for giving advices for good matcha powders, this matcha powder was found. So you have to send out, as a merchant, trust signals into the web to be findable, and this will change. Yes, I think SEO is dead at that moment, and what we see is the GEO, the generative engine optimization. So this optimization of how you can be found by these agentic commerce assistants.
Yeah, and I really, I mean, that's another data point that people shouldn't underestimate, right? It's really, the reviews that you have, be that on Google, be that on whatever app platform, or the trust pilots of this world, or I mean, that's really some trust signals that you can use, reference cases, right? That, hey, this and this person trusts me. I think that's gonna be quite some heavy weight to throw into your positioning. And so these trust signals is definitely something where I also constantly reconsidering, is like, what can you do to do that, because you don't want to buy 50,000 likes somewhere on the dark net, or you don't, because trust is like a water glass. And I had this wonderful professor in Ireland who one day basically said that you build trust up very slowly, but once you drop trust, it's very tough to get the water back from the ground. I'm gonna save the carpet here today, but he very, very nicely framed that. And I think that's what you're gonna have with agentic commerce. We're gonna run into weird situation, and I mean the internet is weird already. We're gonna see some crazier things coming up, but it's gonna create a lot of beauty and interesting success story going forward.
Very interesting. Also, to just add to this point, I've been thinking about this all the time, like doing shopping, and you buy stuff not only because you need it, not because it's useful, not because it's cheap, right? It adds also a lot of like emotions.
Yeah.
So you identify yourself. That's why we do marketing, right? Why we do branding, right?
Yes.
So you actually, so why do you spend millions to just show on TV? People won't buy like because of that, but it does work over the time. You build this trust little by little. But also, like, my question will be in the agentic commerce era. So this kind of trust and findable these things that we can optimize, right? But what were the emotions that you trigger in the consumers for your brand that they make at the end the purchase decision? Because it's machines, agentic, it's agents.
Yes.
Agents doesn't have machines, I hope, right? So it's not like humans, because humans, we see these advertisement, we see all this content, we see this interaction, community, everything. So we have emotions. Sometimes we make a purchase not because it's useful to us, it's because we think it's cool, or I identify myself for that, it gives me a better experience or whatever. These are emotional added value. So how it's going to be in the agentic commerce era? These emotions, how to translate it into codes?
I would say is like, yes, and that's the reason why these other channels will continue to exist. But I mean, everybody knows that you get home from a whatever long work day at home, and then you crash on the couch and realize, dang it, I still need to get up and get milk. I mean, or even like get to the. I mean, that's wonderful. It's serving one of my emotions or one of my states. So it even can be great in feeding that, and that's where these choices can be made, right? Where you just say, hey, can you make sure that everything like is ready for my next 2 or 3 meals, and not letting me having to go through this pain. But it's like I think we see crazy events happening these days, getting bigger and bigger. New York Marathon breaking records and participations. Every 30-year-old seems to be doing a high rocks these days. So I think these event characters, they start to pop up once you realize it's like, oh well, maybe it's not within, let's say, the regular grocery shopping. So we as humans, we will find other ways to fulfill our emotional needs. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, and that's where we can learn from China, I think. I think this shopping experience, as you described, I think this is far more popular in China than here.
Immersive.
Yes.
Immersive shopping.
When I think about my shopping experience or my shopping behavior, I have to control myself not to get this shopping experience, but because then I start buying, and yes, that's maybe not always the best thing to do.
Yeah, so I hear that you guys are quite optimistic about the future. Like, we're not going to be totally, let's say, occupied or let's say, replaced by the AI agents. So human experience still will exist. That gives me a lot of hope. So let's look at a little bit into the crystal ball for 2040. If we follow the current trajectory, who will be the ultimate winner taking all the profits, and who will be the tragic loser in this agentic commerce revolution? What do you think?
Yes, in my paper, I described 2 pathways here. And I think this is really interesting to think about these 2 pathways, because one pathway is that we have this super apps also here in Europe. We have this agentic commerce with this deeply integrated commerce elements. And I think in this scenario, the big winners will be these big ecosystems. It will be Google, it will be Alibaba, they will be the big winners. But if we think about a second pathway, and we talked about this pathway, the whole discussion today, I would really hope for this second pathway where we build our own agents, where we have this trust situation between me and my own agent that I trained on my own. And in such a scenario, I think, yes, I would prefer to live maybe in the year 2040, to have not an opaque decision of one agent that tells me this is your shoe, buy it, and this is your pathway to. So yes,
he just buys it
I-
for you.
yeah, definitely. But I would really love the European way to emerge. But yes, let's see what happens. You framed the concept. It's like it's a really rivalry between trust on the one hand and convenience. And we don't have to let convenience win this battle totally.
What do you think?
I mean, we will have some people that unfortunately, or some shops and some that will be the losers in this, and I mean that's the ones that probably work in very high commodity, that basically this is just a fluke. I don't think that's a fluke. I think we've had other technology trends. Think about some crazy apes pictures that were sold a few years ago. I mean that was something where my LinkedIn was full. It's like, you should invest in this, and I'm like, I was like, nah, maybe not. This one I definitely believe is absolutely worth it. You see that with the enterprise adoption. The amount of money that's being put into by the companies, I think that's inevitable. But it will create wonderful new experiences for us, for the community going forward. If I were able to predict who's going to be the winner, I think I would not be sitting here. I'd be on a Caribbean island somewhere. But it's like
Do you work at the Riveted? Do you see there is a let's say strategic opportunity for payment solution companies for Riveted?
Yes.
For example, where's your challenge? Where is your strategic focus heading towards?
It's building that trust layer, 100%. And I mean, our focus is first and foremost Europe at this stage, and building that trust layer, making sure that the local adaptations. I mean, you need to lean into some of these, and I'm very confident and hopeful that those are the right moves. But yeah, it's like we will find wonderfully diverse answers to this very question, and I'm eager to see what the competition will be doing. As always, you monitor that as a market participant, but
I see this also as a unique opportunity, right?
Yes, 100%. I mean, every change is an opportunity. Yes,
for sure. All right, so we've talked a lot about grant strategies, but for a retail executive listening to us right now, what is the single most practical thing they should do next Monday morning to start preparing for this agentic future?
Yeah, I can start. I think you should go to your IT team and ask, is our product catalog already machine readable? Can we connect to the ACP, to the UCP? Is this already possible to do? And if not, why not? So I think this would be the first thing I would do. And afterwards, in the next weeks, really think about how does the customer journey of your product looks like, and where are possibilities for delegated processes within your special customer journey, and then build your own agentic strategy for that, your own products, but start on a narrow path maybe. Give your agents small scopes, limited first buying opportunities, so that you can slowly build up your trust system for your agents.
I would probably, I mean, 100%. So I need to choose something else. I will, and that's basically review your fraud policies. Become discoverable. It's like if you go to your favorite choice AI and ask, like, please shop at my favorite store today, and ask it to search it, and go back and forth. Latest, the second or third time, it will say, I cannot access this website anymore, because we've treated agents as fraud before. We didn't want to have bots trying to purchase. So many websites are just blocking bots. Well, bots are becoming your new friend if you deal with them correctly. And so maybe start be discoverable at the first place, because if you don't even allow people into your website, your catalog can be as good as anything. So let's start there Monday morning.
Very valid points, very practical tips, I would say. Thank you very much. There is still an opportunity, according to you guys, for Europe to discover its own path and to win this race for the future, because we cannot lose this one anymore.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.